Good, great. Good evening. Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you all. I am Matt Green, co-chair of our ACES committee, along with Josephine Ishman. This is the February meeting of Arts, Culture, Education, and Schools Committee. As we normally do, this meeting will be recorded and is streamed on YouTube. We do ask that all members, of the committee attend in person. And with that, I think everyone should have a copy of an agenda. We begin our meetings with an open session for the public, an opportunity for community members to share any issues that have come up that they would like to bring to the committee's attention. So with that first agenda item, I'll see if there's anyone from the public with a hand raised who would like to bring something up. Does not look like it. So we will be moving on to our second agenda item, if New York Public Library is here, for an update on budget needs for the renovation at Columbus Branch, as well as the renovation at the Muhlenberg Library, which is underway. And Ella has joined us, and we have quorum. Hooray. Welcome, Ella.
Nice to be cheered.
So let's bring over the public library. Here. Excellent.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Francis. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having us. So we, before we do get into the capital construction updates on both those branches, I wanted to give Liana the opportunity to just give quick updates on what the branch is up to for programming this season.
Okay, hello, good evening. My name is Liana Spooner. I'm the manager, and I just want to let you know the different programs that we're offering. So every Monday, we have a program, an art program for teens at 3. Tuesdays and Fridays, we have programs for toddlers, babies and toddlers. We do story time. Every Wednesday, we have a craft program at 3 p.m. We also do on Thursdays and Fridays, we have movies. And every second and fourth Saturday, we do a writing group. Every third Wednesday, we have a book club. And we also, what's really exciting is every Wednesday, and one of our newer programs is we teach conversational English. So every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we have a new librarian, and she has a great turnout. And another great new program that we have is we have a social work intern, and she's there every Tuesday and Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we'd love for you guys to join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Liana. I appreciate that update on programming. And all of that, can that be found? Is that at the Columbus branch?
Yes, everything is Columbus Library, and you can see everything online on the website.
Okay, great. Does anybody have any questions about programming?
I do. Hi, Liana. Thank you so much for information. I haven't heard, well, I guess I had heard that social workers were making their ways into libraries. Can you talk about that a little bit? How that's about and what it actually entails?
Great. So what she does is she'll meet with individuals. She'll find out what needs they have. Like sometimes she'll give them different resources. She'll give them guidance. Sometimes they have questions about housing. Sometimes they have questions about different like resources. We have like a neighborhood cheat sheet, and it will have like resources about food pantries. Just where they can get information on, let's say, different IDs, just pretty much whatever additional information that they need. And if she doesn't have it at the moment, she'll search for it.
Okay, so does she work with a nonprofit organization, or is this from the city?
So Sure. So she's a social worker intern, right? So it's something that NYPL is doing. So I feel like it's about maybe about 10 branches. They'll have a social work intern, and they're guided by somebody in New York Public Library who does site visits. And they're also, they're mentored by an official social worker from their school.
Oh, from school. Okay, I see.
Yes. So it's various people, various social worker interns from various colleges.
Got it.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I have a really big question to that. Thanks for letting us know about it. So is there data that's being kept? Like, I think it would be interesting to know, how many people are coming to see the social worker? What languages are they speaking? Like, I think it would just be, I'm just wondering, for us to have a sense, especially if they have a question later on about, will this program continue or that sort of thing, or do we need more of it? It'd be interesting to just see if there's any data that's been kept about it and, and what are the most common issues. So I'm just wondering, has any of that happened, do you know?
Yeah, so there is data. Yeah, so the social worker intern, she does keep that data and she also gives it to her supervisor as well. And then we have something great as well that we're going to start incorporating. We have something that helps with the language barrier as well. So because sometimes what I've seen the most popular thing is a lot of people who do speak Spanish who come in and they're just thankful for the resource. And like I said, a lot of people just sometimes they just need like, oh, where would we get food from? A lot of people just are kind of lost with these things, or sometimes they may need to know where would they get like temporary shelter from. And that's a resource that the social worker talks with them. And what I've seen, sometimes they just need somebody to listen to them. And sometimes that happens too.
Yeah, fair enough. And so you said that they are they
Yes.
are keeping data right now,
Yes.
which is great. And then you mentioned a neighborhood cheat sheet, which sounds super helpful. And I'm just wondering, has that been translated into different languages or is it just in
So
English?
I believe it comes in a few languages. The ones I've seen so far, the ones we've had so far here, because we've had them, and they're English and they're in Spanish, and they're like just little booklets like this big, and you just open it up and it says just different things that they need. Like I said, where they can get the food, where maybe they can get a shower at, just different resources. Yes.
I do want to clarify that as a policy, the library does not retain patron information. There are certain programs based on city requirements where we do retain some information, but those are usually, if we receive funding for programs such as English conversation classes, but as a policy, identifying data we do not keep. But
more general data.
Right.
if you're interested, in that type of data, we can connect with the program managers for the social workers and see what we can provide you.
Right, but sometimes they keep like the number of people that they're meeting with. So they won't keep their personal information, no. So yes, so you're right. Yeah. So like just saying like, okay, like I met with 4 people today, I met with this person, and this is a need that needs to be filled, and that helps the social worker intern also know what additional resources they may need.
Fine, yeah, great. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
These are,
One more question. Sorry.
these aren't program questions, more general library questions, so should I wait till after?
Is it specific to the Columbus Branch Library or?
Yeah, it's just Columbus and Muhlenberg,
Right.
right, in our CB4, and Muhlenberg's closed
Mhm.
at the moment.
Mhm.
Okay, so I can wait, it's so,
Sure, yeah, why don't we, do you have?
Yeah, I just had a question about the
Okay.
programming. I was just curious, I'm talking about data land. Thank you for sharing. In terms of overall engagement, are there certain programs that you feel are doing really well, or are there other programs where you feel maybe could use more marketing or advertising?
Well, at the moment, they're picking up. Like the conversational English class, definitely picking up. The our craft program, like the word has been spreading, especially for kids. Like it went from 1 or 2 tables to like a whole section. Our movies are great, and it just depends. Sometimes it just depends on the weather as well. So, I mean, any way you put it, more advertisement is always great, and spreading word is always great. And that's one thing that's great. Another thing that we offer, I forgot to mention, we have an after-school program, and we have that Mondays through Thursdays from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m., right? And that started off with just a few kids, and that's spreading as well.
And what age group is that for, the after school?
So they do roughly from about 5-year-old to 8. I mean, sorry, from 5 to about 11.
Is it
And-
drop off?
Yeah, and what happens in you drop, and we have tutors here. He'll do help homework. They'll do games. They'll do educational games with them.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's very good.
Ellen, do you want to ask your question? Because we'll probably spend some time on the renovation stuff, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've just been hearing that some of like, and this doesn't pertain to Columbus, but just in general, some of my mom friends complaining that just in the library that they don't feel safe, or they feel like there's some like maybe people that are sleeping there at the libraries. Is that an issue at Columbus? Like, what would you say?
So, well, at Columbus, we do have a security guard, right? And like I said, we do our best, but, and this is why I tell people just in life, it's a public place. So public place means everybody's welcome. And the thing about it is it's a free public place. So, you know, things happen everywhere, but we do our best.
Right, and if I can just add, we do have general guidelines on, you know, the hygiene, for example. I know that's been a complaint from patrons about the folks that we let into the libraries, and patrons just, you know, complaining about discomfort. We do, as much as possible, try to help folks who are experiencing housing issues, challenges, or direct them to resources. We do have our branches provide those resources. But I do want to clarify, or not clarify, but add that our security personnel, they're not law enforcement, you know, so we can't force anyone outside the libraries, and especially on the sidewalk, that is a public place, you know, but we do try to maintain as much as possible safety environment for all, while welcoming everyone into the library. That's a free and open space for everyone in New York City, including those with housing insecurities. But all our libraries are staffed with security personnel.
Any
All right,
other
so
questions from the committee? Yeah, so just before getting into the renovation, just.
Sorry, Maria, may have
Oh,
something to do.
Wait.
Maria,
Hi,
Yes.
can you hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I wonder if the folks at the Columbus branch are aware that there is a drop-in center 1 block away for folks who are living on the streets. It's on 9th Avenue between 51st and 52nd. I don't know if they were aware, but they can refer them there. It's open, you know, people can walk in 24/7.
Yeah, is that an urban pathway site? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much for the additional information. And I will also share that with the social work intern. She'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm also, well, just FYI, I'm also a social worker, and I was born and raised in the neighborhood. So I know a lot of resources that are in the community if like the intern needed. MCB4, Jesse Bodine is excellent and knows a lot about a lot of the resources in the community in case the intern needs information.
Okay. Thank you. I took your name down.
Thank you, Maria. That's a great point and a good
You're welcome.
resource.
Yeah.
So we're gonna turn towards some of the capital needs at both branches. We're gonna start with Columbus Branch, and just for new members, a few years ago, there was a capital request for an ADA lift at Columbus, and then they had an issue with the roof. There was some serious leaking problems that was happening, and it actually closed down the children's section for a while. And that had been an ongoing need that we had received from the public library, and it had been a priority of this committee to add it to the budget, to our budget request. And so we're looking to get an update on that, just in terms of like, what's been funded, is it fully funded, is work started, or do we anticipate sort of when work might start, which I think relates to the roof work at that branch. We're certainly also, you know, happy to hear any other, you know, capital needs that that particular branch has. And then we'll have a conversation about the Muhlenberg Branch, which has been closed for, I think, at least 4 years. A very long time. It was like a full restoration of the library, so major work. But it's really important that, you know, this branch open up. We only have 2 libraries in our entire district. So we're hoping to get an update on the status of that project and hopefully a time when that branch will reopen to the community. It's been a missing asset for a long time. So thank you again for being here. Why don't we start with the Columbus branch and you can tell us what's going on there.
Yes. Okay, so we can, I want to provide for folks who are new to the community board. Jesse knows this. I know Jesse has all the records, communication records, so he can correct me on anything that I missay. But the Columbus project is a project that started under the Department of Design and Construction. It had the scope of work consists of an HVAC replacement and roof work. So in 2022, we discovered that the roof work was much larger than we anticipated. So we spent pretty much all of 2023 doing probes on the roof, the parapet, a lot of masonry probes to create drawings so that our structural engineer could create a design and scope of work for construction bids. So at this point in the process, the project is out to bid, and we are anticipating starting in the spring of this year. The project will approximately take about 6 months to complete, pending the weather, but we feel confident that we'll be able to accomplish this. And I want to provide details on why we feel confident. So I mentioned that it started out as a Department of Design Construction. Doing capital projects within the city process takes a long time, and we were able to separate that roof work from the HVAC project by going to the state and asking for funding. So at this time, this project's scope worth about $8 million worth of work for both HVAC and roof. We received money from the state to do the roof work on our own. So that really gives us more flexibility in the type of contractors we're able to get to this work. It did take us a bit to get to this point after all the pros and figuring out whether we were going to do an emergency project with the state, but then we had to pivot. It's just the nature of working with city-owned buildings and what can we do within, you know, the confines of city capital work. But our facilities team is now taking ownership of that roof work. So we feel that we'll be able to address, you know, having the leaks that Jesse and the members from brought up from, I believe, a year ago or more. And I know that sometimes we close when there is a lot of rain because of the roof, but I think we're in a much better place in terms of how we're going to do this project and the flexibility we have to get it done quickly. So it's in procurement now, and we anticipate selecting a vendor to do this work in the next few weeks, and we'll be able to start work in April, and it'll be 6 months.
Got it.
If it's closed.
Will the library remain open or closed?
It'll be closed for 6 months.
Wow. So we will have no library in
library.
CB4. Wow, that's
Wow.
big.
So yeah, so I know where we'll get to Muhlenberg. I know that we try as best we can to try to not close 2 branches at the same time. There will be we anticipate some overlap, but not too much. So Muhlenberg is anticipated to reopen in August. I know that's taken quite a bit, but that's where we are now. If there are any specific questions on Columbus, I'd be happy to take that, or I can just move forward with Muhlenberg.
Thank you. On Columbus, so the 8 million is for both the HVAC and the roof, or just the roof?
for both the HVAC and the roof.
Okay,
So for the roof
And-
work is 1.3 million for the roof work.
okay. And so both of those things will be happening within that beginning in April, ending in 6 months, or what's the phasing of both of those?
The HVAC work, with DDC, that's still, we're still waiting on a construction start time on that piece. But the roof work is what we were able to decouple from that project and start on our own and the NYPL managed.
Okay. And is the HVAC work, do you anticipate the library to close at any point when that work is ready to start?
Yes. But we'll provide a timeline on that when we actually have one. I don't want to add any timeline that DDC will then move, but we don't have any construction start times for that project as of yet.
Is there a possibility that you could start that work while the library is closed already for the roof work?
Not with the schedule that DDC has given us, no.
That's too bad. Okay, I'm gonna hold on to questions in terms of the committee.
So, I think in the community, it's been, some hope has been lost in trusting the whole renovation and construction timelines and, efforts, given how many years the Muhlenberg branch has been closed for. And you mentioned that you've made good progress and that you don't have to close the library anymore when it rains hard. It sounds like maybe some fixes have been put into place. And I guess I'm just wondering why if the library has to be closed during the HVAC work and during the roof work, couldn't we wait, especially because Muhlenberg is still closed, couldn't we wait until after August to start the work on the Columbus branch? So that it is never the case that there is no library available to the community?
I mean, that's something that I can bring up with our facilities department, but we're, you know, we understand. We don't like to close all the libraries in a district, especially if they're being highly utilized. As Liana noted, it is a very popular branch, but it's really juggling the timeline of projects and all the 88 branches and their different needs within the city's capital process, and also managing what we can do with the project managers that we do have in our capital team. I think we mentioned that this was a facilities project with a facility scope. So usually when we talk about facilities project, you know, they're more like refreshment, project refreshes, like painting, floor replacement, but now it's moved into more long-term capital infrastructure changes. So it's really us trying to juggle our workload, DDC's workload, and how we can, you know, what can we do to mitigate closures in our entire system as well.
I guess then if that's the situation, would it be possible to expedite the opening of Muhlenberg so that I just feel like in summer, that's when my kids use the library a lot because it's super hot and it's like they're not in school, so.
Right.
I mean,
You know, we would love to expedite all the projects. But as I mentioned, and then this is not an excuse, you know, be full transparency, it's not an excuse, but working with the Department of Design and Construction, it takes, you know, some projects last 8 years, 7 years to complete. We at NYPL try to be as creative as possible within the city's capital process to try to maybe use private funds, sometimes to start design on different projects to avoid the city's prolonged capital process that takes a very long time. Muhlenberg is a 3-piece project fully managed by the Department of Design and Construction. So we're really at the mercy of their schedule. including.
Well, I think that if we can position it to say that our community would not have a library for, you know, that just feels like if there is an excuse to push an organization to say, like, if we can leverage more resources in this one area because this area doesn't have a library, feels like it could be a way. I mean, I understand. I completely hear what you're saying.
Right.
But I'd be remiss not to ask.
Yeah.
No, it's a valid point. And I'm sorry, I just went completely dark. We're a motion sensor and I'm the last person in the office. No, I will make sure to speak with our facilities department and our branch services department to see if there is some flexibility to potentially wait for Muhlenberg's reopening in August. There might be some flexibility that it could open earlier Muhlenberg, but I've said that many times in the public meeting for different projects, and DDC always makes me a liar. But we feel confident that it will be open by August. It'll just be a question on what we can do with Columbus.
Minimizing the overlap between the closure of both libraries, I think is a super high priority, whether that's expediting the reopening of Muhlenberg or pushing off the renovation at Columbus.
Okay.
Either way, I think it would be helpful to look into both of those options, especially, you know, these are cooling centers. And so over the summer, that's a huge, you know, it's a health issue as well. You know, we're gonna have some very, very hot days over the summer, and there's not gonna be places for people to go. So yeah, this is, you know, it's a big concern. So we appreciate you taking that back, and we'll have a committee discussion on what we might want to do. But any other
I
questions?
have another
Yeah.
question. Jesse, you wanna go?
No, I'll let you.
I'm curious, so the closest library then that's fully operational and not closing, what is it? Is that Andrew High School Library?
For Muhlenberg, yes, the Andrew High School Braille and Talking Book Library.
And could that potentially have their hours extended? Because that library has like odd hours, like some days it doesn't open until noon.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just trying to think of ways where we can have options for people to go to.
Maybe, yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah, and I don't know what the other library would be on the northern end of CB4. Jesse, do you know what it would be like right outside of our district on the north side?
Yeah, there's one up on 10th Avenue, by the Lincoln Center branch. Yeah, it's like 64th or something.
Yeah.
It's Riverside.
Yeah, the Riverside. branch.
Yeah. But I'm looking at Columbus, and on the east 53rd Street would be then on the east side. Closer. Not closer, but the closest. So it's Riverside and 53rd Street.
Yeah. So, sorry, what happens to employees and to programs when a library is closed? Like,
So
can they get moved to a nearby library?
Yeah,
and have
exactly.
it there?
Exactly.
Including the programs, so like the conversational English or the whatever programs that are popular, they could just have a new location for 6 months or a year, however long it takes.
Yes, that's what we try to do. We had obviously challenges with staffing last year when we were being cut, but I'm happy to report that Muhlenberg has officially hired all of their staff, so they're all waiting, you know, for that branch to reopen, and they'll be fully staffed once that happens. But yes, all staff are relocated to different branches across the system, and then we do create a temporary services plan to continue popular programs in the neighborhood. So we try to look at community organizations, churches, even schools sometimes, to continue story time. And as Liana mentioned, we do have that very popular after school drop-in program. So those are programs that our branch services team would look at and determine what we can keep and those partnerships and those temporary services plan will be shared with the community.
Yeah, Jesse.
Hi, Francis, it's Jesse.
Hey, Jeff.
Can I just get, and I apologize if you said it earlier to me, I just missed it. Can I get clarity on this? And Matt was asking about this. The original 8, now it's, you've got the 1.3, 1.4 dedicated for the roof. That's through that's through facilities. That's correct?
That's through facilities and the funding
Yeah,
we got
and
from
then-
the state.
That's from the state, okay.
Mhm.
And then the 4.5 remaining, which is the HVAC, which was originally not part of this project whatsoever up
Right.
until 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it ballooned to this $8 million project. That is still yet to be funded, is that accurate?
No, that's funded. That's funded.
That is funded.
Yeah.
And that's funded, is that funded through the city?
That is funded through the city, correct? And it's
Okay,
under DDC. So it's 6 million for the HVAC managed by DDC.
oh, okay, so we put in our budget requests, right? We advocate for you guys all the time, as you know. And we advocated for the 4.5 because we were under the impression that, right, that the state is covering the roof. The response we got back, or at least from the preliminary budget, was that the library did not support our request, which was for the 4.5. Maybe that's just a drop down mistake. What it should be saying is, that's been funded, right?
Mhm.
The 4.5 has been funded. That's accurate?
That's
I just wanna
accurate.
go over it again.
That
It
is
doesn't say
accurate. That is
in the
accurate.
official document that we got back from our budget request, it does not say that.
No, that is accurate. And I can double check with my colleague
Okay.
Jack, who I remember reviewing those submissions in December. So I can double check and make sure that, you know, we provide.
But we don't have a schedule for that.
No, we do not.
Okay. And is the 4.5 still in the emergency division?
No.
Or is it's not, it's completely
No.
outside? Okay.
No.
Okay, and my final question, I guess, is the August date that for Muhlenberg, is that the scheduled date, or has that been postponed already?
No,
that-
no,
was that
that is the reopening date that we have for the public. So it's not the construction, and you know, we usually need a buffer time for our staff to get all the books back in there, the furniture delivery. So that the August date is the time that we have to reopen to the public.
That's the date you reopen to the public. And
Mhm.
but has that date been changed at all ever? Or is that's the original date when the project started?
Oh no, that date, I mean, as of now, currently from this fiscal year and from our last check-in we had with DDC, we were able to determine that August of this year will be our reopening date to the public. Now, if your question, if I'm understanding, is if when we started the closure, if that was our original reopening date, is that what you're asking?
Well, no, I mean, I guess, I think I asked a foolish question because we know that that was the original date.
Yeah, we've
Okay.
unfortunately been delayed by over 2 years.
Okay, all right, I appreciate it. Yeah, if you can look back at that answer, because I think it makes a big difference to us when we are advocating for this, for these branches, especially Columbus, I'll be honest with you. I know everybody's very concerned about Muhlenberg, and it's an important branch, I get it, but, you know, Columbus has had this roof issue, I think, since the beginning of my tenure here.
Yeah.
And it's been ignored to the point now it's gotten to so bad, then it got attached onto this HVAC, which I don't, of course, I want the Columbus branch to have an HVAC. But at the end of the day, the roof was the real problem, and it was closing down, you know, different rooms, and so, you know. It's
Yeah.
good news to hear that it's funded. The timing, I think, is concerning, and I think if it can match up where we don't lose, we can actually keep one branch open all the way through. At some point, I think that does make sense to me, even if it delays the Columbus slightly. But yeah, we would love to, we'd love to build it down as a win. honestly, if we got the funding and it's secure.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, honestly, you know, we understand here, and I think the push here for our facilities, we were pushing hard for them to start and have that funding to avoid those, you know, 2-3 week closures when it rains and the branch has to close their children's room. So we were trying to expedite and move that as fast as we could within, you know, capital constraints. Because dealing with DDC, you know, if they come back to us, let's say Muhlenberg reopens and then they say they can't start this project till 2026, you know, that's kind of what we were trying to avoid. You know, if we can do the roof project as quickly as we can, because now we have that flexibility to be working outside the city capital process. And so then we're not beholden to DDC schedule. That's what we're trying to see. But I think, you know, if I bring it back to our facilities and our capital team, you know, could we hold off to start this roof project till Muhlenberg is open? I think we would be able to do that.
And maybe there would be a chance that you could do both of those projects, like at that time. Is there a scenario in which those projects could happen simultaneously?
The
Like, would you-
HVAC and roof.
The HVAC and roof, if you were to push back the roof work, and then by then you might have a better idea from DDC about the HVAC work, then maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, right, okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
So I do wanna spend a little time, you know, to get to Muhlenberg, but just one last, once you get to the HVAC part, just generally, and I know you don't have a schedule in terms of a start date, but what do you anticipate the time for that work to take? So we know like what that anticipated closure would look like.
Let's see, well, judging from previous projects with similar work, it takes about a year.
Okay, so.
Just one other question, Francis. So if the date isn't pushed back, what, as of now, when do you expect the Columbus branch to close? For the renovation of the roof starting when?
So let me look at my notes. It says construction start mid-March, early April.
Ooh.
That's right around the corner, mid-March, that's next month.
Mhm.
When will we know for sure?
Well, we try to, well, I can give you that answer. I mean, since it's a project that we're closely managing, you know, we feel I could, that's what I have from our facilities director. Mid-March, early April, that's as a closure.
Okay.
So we do feel confident about that.
Yeah.
One thing you don't like, yeah.
So, actually, I don't understand the process enough, I think, but like. If we as a community board are suggesting that we really, really would like, on behalf of the community, to have a library open at all times in our community. Who is the decision maker, or to whom do we address a letter asking for the library work, the roof work not to start until August? I guess is my question. Like,
I
who's
mean,
the decision maker?
Well, it's 3 departments, really, our capital planning, our facilities department, and our branch services department.
But when you say our, you mean like the New York City
The New York
Public
Public Library. Now, I totally forgot to formally introduce myself. I'm the senior manager for government and community affairs. And as Jesse knows, we are in constant communication with our capital team. I sit right next to them. So it's really a matter of my team checking in with them, letting them know this is the community board's formal request. This is what the community wants, and really us having an honest conversation of what we can do given facilities, you know, timeline and the needs of the community. So, you know, I will make sure to bring that up with our team. We have a check-in this Thursday, follow up with Jesse, and let him know our thoughts and what we can do. But like I said, you know, as a policy, internal policy, we do not like to close libraries if we don't have to. I mean, not to say that we didn't do that. Unfortunately, we had to do that. We found ourselves in that problem in East Harlem with, delays through the pandemic, and then priority of projects, roofs also falling and breaking apart, where we had to almost close all the libraries in, the East Harlem. But that was very drastic given the pandemic. So we do not like to do that as a policy.
So Francis, all the programming that you guys currently have in Columbus, does that have a place to go to? Like the current roster, every single program has a place to go to if that branch or when that branch closes?
So our branch programs team would make that determination based on popularity and staffing. How many staff can we allocate? How many staff are going to stay within that library network? And of course, do we have community partners, churches or other community organizations that will let us host these programs in their space?
So you are looking for space in the neighborhood for all these. Okay.
Yeah. But the good news is, this year's budget, we're not being cut. So we're not anticipating missing any staff. We're not baselined, of course, so we still need to make sure we get funding from City Council, but we're not in the same position we were last year where we didn't even have enough staff to continue temporary services.
Let's switch to Muhlenberg. So Francis, you've already mentioned a few things about, the library opening in August. There was a 2-year delay, but could you just take us through sort of like the scope of work at the branch? Because it's been some time, and it would be really helpful to hear sort of like the work that's going on. And, I think we have a lot of questions about the 2-year delay, and we don't want to see that happen at Columbus. So, anything we can do to be helpful, to be proactive, we appreciate. So.
Yes, so the Muhlenberg project is managed by the Department of Design and Construction. It is a 3-part project with the replacement of the elevator, the HVAC system, as well as fire alarm and sprinklers. And then there's an external project to renovate the sidewalk. And all of that is being managed by DDC. Unfortunately, there have been delays since we closed the branch in 2022. It's just a matter really of the Department of Design and Construction managing and juggling different projects. Unfortunately, sometimes our projects are left on the back burner a bit. And then there are just different, working with Carnegie libraries, they're old. Muhlenberg is one of those. We had delays with the elevator. We found out that the systems that were put in place were not working. So then they had to repair all those systems in the elevator. Now, don't ask me technical questions about elevator because our facilities told me, but I can put that in writing to Jesse to make sure if you want more details on what exactly broke that caused significant delays. But as of now, the elevator, the HVAC, and the fire alarm have all been completed. So it's really the sidewalk work, the facade work, which of course, and we know that there's huge graffiti outside right now that will all be cleaned and repaired. So that's that piece. And then our part, NYPL, our facilities team, once all that is wrapped up, we'll do refreshes. So replacing the flooring, painting the library, and getting all new furniture for all our floors. So that's the project right now. And it is anticipated to all be completed, as I mentioned, in August.
And you are confident in the August date?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are there questions, Ella?
Yeah, I think as we get closer to, I'd love to sort of see what we can do to help support the sort of opening festivities and communication, because this is really exciting. A lot of work has been done, it sounds like, and so if we can mobilize to kind of remind everybody and and bring traffic to
Mhm.
that library
Yeah,
again, that would be
that'd be
really exciting, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess it's a little quiet period though in August and for the city, but yeah, even if we have to time it in September when everyone's back too.
I mean, we do every time we reopen a branch, patrons signed up to receive communications from their home branch will receive a notice about ribbon cutting, soft opening. We try to do soft openings first. Otherwise we'd be waiting for all the elected officials on their calendars forever. So we do our soft openings, and then we send an official ribbon cutting invite for the entire community.
And when you say August, are we talking August 1st, August 31st? Is the goal to have it open at least for a month of the summer, do you know?
That our capital team did not want to give me an official date. They said August. But maybe I can push a little harder and try to get you a date early August as opposed to late August.
And I know you said that you've done HVAC work at Muhlenberg and you know that you have to do HVAC work at Columbus. I know nothing about HVAC, but my general impression is that it does involve the roof often. So I'm just wondering, at Muhlenberg, did the HVAC work involve the roof? And if so, should the work being done at Columbus on the roof be done before the HVAC is planned out?
No, that's a good question. I would need to go back to our capital team and ask that. With Muhlenberg, because it's an old Carnegie branch, I know that we try to rethink where we can put these systems, with the Carnegie renovation, the 5 Carnegie renovations that we just finished, sometimes we repurpose rooms so that we don't have the HVAC in the roof and it's in, a separate room. Anyway, all this to say, it really depends branch by branch. But I'll let you know. I know that the primary ask is if we can start the roof work in August so that we don't have both branches closed. So, but yes.
Okay. Are there other questions from the committee? Are there questions from the public that anyone has about these updates? Okay. Thank you, Francis. Oh, there is a question. Oh, okay, we have Renee. Okay, Renee, you should be able to, there you go.
Oh, okay. The question I was having, was there a possibility of a bookmobile?
Oh, yes.
Or,
Thank you, Renee. Yes, we would offer bookmobile services. And we always plan to do that for all of our closures.
What is the bookmobile?
thank you.
So our bookmobiles, they're libraries on wheels. So they're like vans with books, a small collection of books. You can check out books from there. Do pretty much everything you can do at a library circulation desk, like get a library card, check out some books, return books. They're managed by our 2 librarians. And we try to park them where we have branches that are closed.
Oh, so there's been one at Muhlenberg? I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
So-
It's on Mondays, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's one a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on Mondays? It's one day a week?
Let me double check, because I know that it was out of service for some mechanical repairs. But let me double check very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great resource to know about.
If you know about it.
Exactly, if you know about it. So
And
get
if it's,
So getting the schedule, how the frequency.
Yeah. If that could be increased multiple
Yeah,
days a week.
so right now we have it at 21st Street and 7th Avenue from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Let's see if I can,
1 day a week for 4 hours.
yes.
And so, this, I mean, can you? Obviously, there's not gonna be a whole lot of books on this bus, or, so, can you order on the website? I mean, can you reserve books on the website to be delivered?
No,
at this
I mean,
location?
Like, picked up.
no,
or,
so
you know,
for that type of service, you would need to go, to Andrew High School or your nearest
Right,
branch.
right. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's what we
Yeah.
usually do. So I'm just wondering exactly what the services are then for the mobile, because there's. Just,
Well, you can return books, you can
Okay.
get a library card. The librarians will sometimes host a story time. And it's just an opportunity for, patrons who live in the neighborhood to come and ask questions, and have a presence there at the library. But
Is-
for other services, we usually tell patrons to go to the Andrew High School Library or Epiphany, for, computer use and other services.
Is there one bookmobile per row, so the 3 bookmobiles?
That's right.
Is that a capital need? Do you guys need like a bigger bookmobile or another bookmobile? Or like a
Well,
bus? Book bus?
Yes, I know. That has come up as a possibility. I think our challenge is the cost of every time if there's a mechanical issue, then sending it to, I think New Jersey is the one that we have to send it to New Jersey for fixes because of the type of vehicle it is. But I mean that's a great question over there. Does the library want more bookmobiles?
Yeah, well, book bus, like the fire department has the MERV, why can't the NYPL have a book bus, storytelling inside?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that these bookmobiles are managed by 2 librarians. So
Oh, wow.
we have to staff and train them. And it looks to me they're not as popular as staffing roles to be on the road and in the cold. So, but I'll bring that up, is there appetite for more bookmobiles?
Cool, thank you.
Anything else for Francis and Liana? All right, I think those are all the questions we have. Again, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for this update on the library branches. Let's stay in touch. We look forward to, hearing what you're able to do to mitigate that closure time between both branches. And, we'll discuss as a committee sort of what we want to do as follow-up, but really appreciate you joining us this evening.
yeah, it was very
Thank you.
helpful, Francis, for the update. Also, Leanna, if you get a chance, can you just email Jesse with all those great programs that you have right now currently in Columbus Branch?
Of course.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you. Jesse, you know where to find me.
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right.
Francis.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So before moving on, I just want to have a check-in, see what the committee would like to do, sort of follow up on this item regarding the libraries. Do we have
I mean, I would suggest, but tell me if I'm way off base for some reason. I really think we should have a letter about this, and I think it should be, we need to have it on the record that we're delighted to hear that the funding has come through, that is a win. But that, given all of the delays with opening Muhlenberg Branch, the idea that we might end up with no library, especially during the summer, and as you mentioned, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
The cooling summers and things, like it's really an issue not to have any library. So I would suggest a letter, asking that both libraries not be closed at the same time.
Yeah, Ken, I would just throw out some context here.
Please do.
Columbus, no disrespect to Muhlenberg, has like just not gotten the attention that it just deserved from the very beginning. I just want to express my weariness of delaying this any longer. For fear of turning into something else, like this was originally literally a $200,000 roof project 7 years ago. It blew up to 1.4, 1.6, 8, like, and it's nothing has been done. Yeah, it's like kind of crazy. Muhlenberg, for while is closed, has been being done, and it's nuts to me. And so that's my only concern. I would want to know all the facts before we make that decision. I think we should express the concern. Again, I don't wanna, you guys have to decide, it's your community, but I think I just wanna make sure we really understand what we're asking for and understanding what, if there's at all any reason why we shouldn't be asking for it. Like if there's Max, Matt, you probably know better than I do how capital funds work. Like, I wouldn't want there to be any excuse come August. They're like, oh, well, something is something, and now it's overpriced on construction.
We've been through
Or
this.
they have to rebid it or something, and then, we're moving it out of this division and moving it into this division, and so now that's gonna take another 6 months and another year. That'd be my only real
Yeah,
concern.
oh,
about
I
this.
think that things get earmarked, and if you like pass that up, I mean, 7 years, and I just think that's too big of a risk. If you're telling me you might not get this work if we delay it,
I don't know.
well, no, but I mean, I think it's
I'm
a
just saying,
valid,
we just
I
haven't,
think
we
it's a
just have
valid
not
point.
seen this, the roof has been a problem at Columbus since I started, and I've been started in 2015. So
Well,
that's
and
all
I
was-
wonder if we could do a slight, I mean, cause look, I don't know. I mean, I think it's great that Francis is, believes that Muhlenberg will open in August. I'm not sure if any of us actually believe Muhlenberg will open in August, given all of the other delays, but maybe instead of saying like, wait until Muhlenberg opens, whatever that is, maybe we could just say, instead of doing the work starting April 1st, could you do the work starting August 1st? Right, like just push it back this many months, give a specific start date, whether or not Muhlenberg is open yet, at least it will be closer to being open. But at least get us through, a chunk of the summer.
Minimizing the overlap of the closings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I mean, I think that Muhlenberg, the only thing that makes me feel good about it is it seems like the major work has been done, right?
Yeah.
The elevator, that was huge, the HVAC, the fire alarms, but I'm a little concerned about the sidewalk situation. I don't, who's doing the sidewalk? That's a little bit concerning to me.
And the fact that it's gonna take them 6 months to do the sidewalk piece of the.
Right, but everything else seems cosmetic, I mean, the flooring, the painting and all of that, so I don't know.
yeah, I mean, we could have a letter without expressing like a direction, like, we don't want you to necessarily wait, but like explore alternatives to avoid a delay, to avoid an overlap in closures between these two library branches, and like we need to get more information about like what's feasible and how that would work. 'Cause I think that's what we're trying to solve for, whether it's prioritizing the work at Muhlenberg so they open up sooner, or pushing back the start date of the Columbus branch a little later. Like, I don't know which one, carries the greater risk, but like they should be looking at all these alternatives, and we should express like whatever they can do without delaying the work at Columbus, like, even if it jeopardizes funding, like we don't, we can work that into it, but I think they need to know that it's a priority to keep at least one branch open for as long as, in the district for a certain amount of period without too much disruption. So,
Including during the summer for the.
right, yeah, and I think that, right.
We may wanna just do an admin letter so we can get it out quickly. Instead of waiting for full board, I mean, I'll talk to Jesse when he comes back, but that might, she said she was gonna talk to the person on Thursday.
Yeah.
The other, and just sort of express our concerns. I think it's important to put it in writing, but I'm not sure if we wanna wait till full board and go through all of that.
Especially because construction might start in March or April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think,
Well, that's true, we're not even meeting again until March.
That's true.
yeah, I agree with the letter of voicing concern. I think I do agree with Jesse about the risk of delaying. I think also Francis said it takes 6 months, if we delay it till August, now we're talking about construction in the winter time. Does that extend? And I say this without knowing anything about constructing roofs and stuff like that, but I would assume in the winter months that it takes longer and you have more weather conditions, so also things that we want, is it really worth the risk
Yeah.
Yes.
of doing that?
Council member, welcome. You can make it.
I got locked downstairs. Rescuing me.
Yay. Glad you
Nice
made
to
it
see
here.
you,
Thank you. We were just having a conversation on, so just one quickly and then Gale will go on.
I'm fine, okay.
We're
Yes,
considering, well, there's also the question on timing of a letter, right? And like, there is some urgency to kind of get the ball rolling, because mid-March in terms of closing Columbus is right around the corner. Does that make sense?
March, you'd be voting this out in March.
And they can start the work in a week, right? So like, does it make sense to do like an administrative letter? Does it make sense to do a letter and do both things? How do we just, we need to act with some urgency that they look into doing what they can to mitigate that impact?
If you're, I think, the way, the quick description is if you're asking questions, without making a board statement,
Right,
you can do an administrative letter.
right.
So if you're saying we're very interested in doing what, coming up with a plan that does this, that to explore and have the library be able to provide a plan to, so there's not a loss of a library, in our district. We want you to be able to, explore this and answer these following questions or something along those lines. I think you could do that. It's not saying, I mean, you're skirting it, you're not saying community board wholly endorses you delaying the Columbus branch for 6 months. But you're saying that we want you to explore this and we want you to be able to provide answers as quickly as possible.
We're just talking creative spaces.
So you could probably say that, and let's say you wanna do that before full board. So therefore, if you wanted to do a new business letter, you could do one. Even let's say if you got the answers back.
Administrative, I'm confused between the different.
I'm saying the administrative you could do like tomorrow. If someone wants to draft a letter tonight, tomorrow, saying, we thank you for your presentation. We're very concerned about this topic. This is what I would like you, the libraries to be able to explore and be able to provide, can they do this? Would this be able to be done? And here's some questions that we'd like you to answer beforehand. Would this delay Columbus in any way further than August first?
Yeah, I think we need to act with some urgency.
Is the August date for Mullen, my concern is, that's why I was asking about whether this Muhlenberg date is like a real thing. Is that gonna be pushed back? And then all of a sudden, then all of our efforts was, or not. So I mean, we could do that tomorrow. You can't, I think it would be, well, I don't think it's a controversial thing. The board you could write an administrative letter saying CB4 wholly endorses.
Right.
Yeah.
No, because I don't think we have enough.
We're not.
Okay, so are we in agreement that that's probably the route, since there's.
An administrative letter.
Right.
Yeah, and Josephine and I can work on it, we can put it together. Okay. All right, excellent, thank you.
Hear you.
Well, can I just bring, this is on the topic, we moved on, this is on the topic of libraries. I understand that libraries are public spaces, but it's not a public space to like temporarily house a temporary homeless, for that period of time. And I just feel like we're the people that actually use the library for its function of getting books, like people don't want to go there because, they're like, there are all these like, people that make them feel very uncomfortable, whether it's their hygiene or, it's like these young kids, and I sound like not so inclusive, but I fear for the attendance of our libraries if we don't preserve its intended use. I don't know, so
I think it's a
I
very
just wanna
thin
have.
line though, because you can't say it's a public space, but only for people who are, getting books or studying. So it's, I don't know how you would enforce what you're
Right, I
kind of
mean, I think
concerned
this is
about.
one of the
They have
reasons why
security.
they actually brought the social workers into the library, the social worker interns, because they know that this is an issue, but We have not heard anything from staff actually coming to say anything. You know, I use the public libraries all the time.
Okay.
I've never felt in fear of my safety. You know, my daughter has always used it. So, I mean, if there's like, you know, a specific issue, a specific branch that you want us to look into, happy to
Okay.
do that, but yeah, just so we can get a little more specifics, and then maybe we can talk to the staff at that branch and to see what's happening there. Yeah, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and providing the Maria, so what Maria brought up in terms of that drop-in center that opened up on 9th, like, those are the types of resources that they may not know about, so informing them, like, hey, here's a place that you can go and you can receive services is also, I think, part of what we can do to be helpful, like, making those connections.
Yeah. Like, it's a public space, but it's not a lawless space, they still have, like, codes of conduct you have to follow, right? You can't be sleeping in the library, that's actually against the code of conduct, you can't have an odor that's so offensive as to offend others. So it could be an enforcement issue too, but they don't have security guards to enforce this. But they have a whole list of prohibited stuff you can't do, you can't drink at the table, you can't eat at the table.
Yeah.
So maybe it could be an issue with enforcement on that end as well. But just because it's a public space doesn't mean it's completely a free for all.
Right.
Just,
Yeah.
in connection with the drop-in center. I happened to be walking by, maybe like late November, early December, and it was not open.
It's open now, I was just there yesterday, 2 days ago.
Okay, so I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's open.
I was there.
Do you know when it opened? Like, was it January or?
Yeah, I have to remind myself, it's not that long ago.
No, about 2 months ago, not even.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say 4 to 8 weeks ago.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
It's packed though.
Good.
Yeah.
And not one, we have not heard, I mean, at least through our office, maybe quickly can answer too, but I haven't had one complaint. Which is, you know, more one outside complaint, one social sidewalk complaint, so it's a good thing.
yeah,
Yes.
You won't, the drop-in centers they don't have complaints either.
And I guess the question is, I remember when we took a tour that we saw that there's only like. Maybe 2 washing machines, or 1 washing machine and 2 dryers, and,
Yeah.
well, I guess I was just wondering, like, have we heard?
No,
Do they have
I think give them 6 months to operate, see, work out the kinks and then ask.
They are doing
Or
scratch
pathways
kitchen,
on that.
they're doing scratch kitchen,
Yeah.
so all the food is being cooked, it's not going.
Wow,
that's
awesome.
It's a great,
That is the whole, yeah.
it's a very big kitchen.
It's a huge kitchen, it's in the basement, near the washer dryer and so on. But I asked them, but to me, that's really important, because you smell the good food and
Yeah,
that's mental health all by itself.
yeah,
But it's all scratch.
that's great. That's nice.
well, thank you, Councilman, for being
Thank
here,
you.
I know you probably have like 10 events after this, so we don't wanna keep you too long. You know, we were at Jesse's high school earlier, and all over the place, so thank you for making the time. Do you want to just talk a little bit about?
I don't know if I can help, I'll try.
Yeah, no, we
Yes,
appreciate your
yes.
perspective.
No, we're so happy to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Gail has always been a champion for our schools, from social
I just
workers.
left one.
Yes, from getting social workers, also washers and dryers, which I have learned that you've actually got it into school, which is amazing, that's
Yeah,
actually.
14 schools.
Wow, 14 schools, I mean, I met Matt and Jesse, I don't know, what, 7 years ago, working on the washers and dryers, so. She has just stayed with it for so long, never gives up, so we're so happy to have you here and to talk about this teacher shortage. We know that we have this big issue coming down the way over COVID, we lost a lot of teachers. How do we get more teachers into the pipeline? How do we retain them so they don't leave?
Yeah.
And also with the class size law, we're gonna need to fill more. So just if you wanna give us your general thoughts.
First of all, I just wanna say, in addition to the teacher shortage, the bigger one are the paras, the paraprofessionals. And just the other day, all of us gathered with the union and others because they make very little money. And there's a massive shortage. So the city council is aiming to give at least a one-time hit to each of them, $10,000. I think we'll be able to do that. I mean, because
This school year, or is that?
all
for
across
next-
the city. In other words, a paraprofessional, as you know, is for that individual student who has an IEP and who then needs extra support. But that paraprofessional, I mean, as you probably know from your kids' experience, often, even though they're not supposed to be a second teacher in the classroom, because we are having teacher shortage, they do often end up being that person.
Yes.
And plus, the young person under his or her IEP is mandated to have that person. but there aren't enough teachers, but there also are not enough parents, which is another problem. So, a huge press conference, I mean, there are actually 26,000 paraprofessionals supposed to be in the public school system.
Oh my God. And how many are there?
I don't know, but it's not terrible, but it's not up to what it should be. They make $32,000 a year. Obviously, the principal makes $217,000 a year. So even with the 3% raise, which everybody in the city who worked for the city got, it's not much for the paras. So will be an increasing shortage of paras if we don't give them some more money. So just so you know, in the budget, which you know that process very well, it looks like there'll be support for, hasn't happened yet. Each of them getting $10,000 more. That's only a one-time shot. So then you have to work to bargain to get their salary up. So I'm just, in addition to the teachers, I just want to mention that
Yes.
this is a huge issue.
Okay, is the city council, they have a bill on this, on
We have a
that?
bill, we
What's
have,
the
I don't know
number?
if there's a number, I can get.
Okay, all right.
But all I can say is, it's a huge focus this
Yes.
year in the city council. I can get you, usually with budget, it's not a bill, it'll be part of a focus,
Okay.
just so you know. So that's one issue. I will say, second, just in terms, before I get to the teacher shortage, is just the whole world of special education. Again, that's where the teachers are short, as you know, in math, science, and special education, those three in particular. Otherwise, in District 2, if I'm talking to people today, there's not a huge shortage, but everywhere in those three areas, that's where the shortage is. It's bad. But special education, because, the cost of the Carter cases, which, if you have a IEP and you sue, you often get to a private school, which if your child needs it, I'm for it, right? But that goddamn DOE should come up with some schools so that we don't have to be spending millions on Carter cases. This is like a broken record. I don't know how many years of the same discussion, but the Carter case is more and more money every single year. It doesn't seem to go away. And that's where there are tons of vacancies and not enough IEP support, the therapists, all the people who need to be part of that special education child's future. But then, of course, before we even get to the teachers, I happen to support, I call it the John Liu bill, because he's the one that pushed so hard to have smaller class size. And it seems like, I don't know if this is really true, but it seems like because our schools, 2 and 3, I have a little bit of 2 and most of 3, they're popular schools, so there are more kids than they're supposed to be. So we end up perhaps with the most challenges in terms of District 2, because that's where everybody wants to be, teachers and students with a larger class size. So it might be one of the things to look at, maybe you've done this, or maybe the CDC has, where you're gonna need more space. I know I've got in District 3, I've got a middle school, I don't know, where the hell we're gonna put it? Because the public school, elementary school, they're in the same building, it's bursting at the seams.
Right.
And so I tried to get them another building, SCA didn't like it, for Christ's sake, so now we're back to square one. So it would be good to see where there is, maybe you've done this already, where you have the biggest, class size issue. I bet you have a lot of them in District 2, I don't know that, but I bet you do. So then you come, so that's another wrinkle, and now of course we have the feds with, are we gonna have, Title I? Other federal big programs, there was for IEP, those are the 2 that are paid for, and the food, a lot of the food is paid for with, federal money, don't even get me started on that topic, 'cause I don't know what's going on, I can't even deal with that crazy man. And then I'm not clear enough on the, school formula on the state side. I mean, that's not part of specifically your discussion, but, foundation A formula is what everything is based on. The schools here feel they're gonna get less, $350 million less than what they would have without the changes. So, it does, the new formula, which I bet gets changed, right? If it's not liked in Great Neck, it's not like in New York City, then you're gonna see changes. I'm using those 2 examples because they're so contrary. Remember last time Great Neck had a fit, and that was the end of that. The formula went away. I don't know how to say it, but that's how it was. But what I'm saying is, the good news about this new formula, which I don't know, this is proposed by the governor, is it gives young people who have in shelters or economically disadvantaged a greater weight, which means more money.
Right.
But I don't know if this is gonna happen. Of course, the other issue is less money, so that doesn't seem good for New York. I don't know how that's gonna, but just be aware of the whole formula issue. I go with John Liu. I happen to think he's, he's obviously chair of the committee for the education in New York City, but he really does get it. So those are the, those are all the places that are converging, right now as we speak. So the teacher shortage, I mean, I don't know where, I know some teachers are upset because of the congestion pricing. I'm just saying the District 2, right in the middle of it.
Alright.
So if you're driving in from elsewhere, I've had, principals say, literally, because I know, why are you parking on the playground? Gale, if I don't let that teacher, she's a math teacher, she comes from Rockland County. If I don't let her park on the playground, I'm not gonna have a math teacher. So then I go, oh shit, we need a math teacher, right? Because that's like a commodity. So I don't know the status of some of the most desired teachers in District 2 or District 4, District 2. It gets down to that kind of level sometimes, parking, I hate to say, but and not
Gail,
the congestion pricing.
Is there a sort of an exception or a discount for essential workers? Because they obviously can't afford to live in New York City, so like they have to drive in.
No, actually, the U of T went to court, and I don't think it's one of the pending ones, I think they lost already. So there's a couple of Hempstead, Rockland, there's a few, I mean, I don't know what the president's gonna do, I don't, so who knows? But right now, I assume that, either they're paying or something's happening, I don't know what they're doing, but I'm just saying that it does contribute sometimes to your teacher shortage. I hate to use the word parking, but it does, I'm just saying. District 2 is a very desired, district, right? So I don't know that you have as big a, challenge as other districts, but all these other things combined, it doesn't help. Now, the migrants, asylum seekers who are in your schools,
Yes.
a lot of them are leaving, as you know. And that's gonna create another havoc, because they bring tons of money with them. Every time, but already the formula helps them. This new formula could help even more, but because they're coming from a shelter, they bring a lot more money. I know in District 3, we had, oh my goodness, some of the, we get 100, 150 of them.
And we
In
have
one
600.
school, it was fabulous. You did also,
Yeah, we got lots.
huge asset. So I don't know, I've been fighting like crazy. Every time a family had to move out of a hotel anywhere, District 2, District 3, I was screaming, they have to have a hotel in Manhattan, not Queens. So the child could stay in the schools. I remember we stopped on bus in the middle of the night. It was going to Queens. I called them up, I got the driver on the line, we turned that fucking thing back. And they did, because I called the commissioner house, and they turned the van back to the road.
Okay.
So
Good for
if-
you.
They were promised not to move out of this city if they have out of this borough. But anyway, I don't know what's gonna happen now because they're so few. We're still trying to keep them in Manhattan, if their children are in the schools.
So if they leave in the middle of the school year, the school loses that fund?
No, the fund is determined on November 1st, October 31, November 1st. So whoever whatever school you're in at that moment, that's who gets the money. Those damn, that charter school does, Eva does, she walks them across on November 2nd. The one she doesn't like, literally, she walks them across the street to the public school.
Right, that's a big problem, because the charters, they
She
don't.
walks
they
them
pick and
across the
choose
street,
who
the
they
one she doesn't
select.
like.
Yeah, right,
She keeps the money.
right.
Anyway, but I'm just saying, the asylum seeking families are wonderful for so many different reasons, but,
Gil, when you
go ahead.
joined our committee last year, there was this hiring freeze that was going on. I don't know if that affected any of the paraprofessionals or any of the staff that, is so needed in this right now. And I don't know what's going on with the freeze. If that's still
The freeze is
affected.
over.
Okay.
In general, there's still, in some agencies, I think DOE is 2 for 1. So if you,
Right.
but I know it's over, freeze is over, no question about it.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that people hire because the pipeline got so screwed up. I mean,
Yeah, that's always the
it's
problem, right?
It's terrible, the pipeline, the lawyers, tech, probably teachers, it just got, people say, oh, I don't need this, I'm taking another job. And
Right.
so all the And the mayor refused for 1 year, if you remember, to do virtual, not for teachers, because they can't do it, but for everybody else. The people said, screw it, I don't need to be here, I'm going somewhere else, so the pipeline, so 1 year, no virtual, now he's virtual if you want. He lets people do it anyway, so I would say the teachers are not under a freeze, but I don't know how much hiring is, now you get the budget fears.
Right.
2 billion is what DOE could lose, the city could lose 10% of its federal, 10% of the city's budget is federal. And the DOE is around, it sounds like a big number, I think it's 39 billion and 2 billion is federal. But, it's important, 2 billion.
Yeah.
So I know it's all very much in flux.
Yep.
Put it mildly.
So with the class sizes, what I had heard was that in terms of physical capacity, that was irrelevant because with class size mandates, basically it's the addition of the teachers. It's not necessarily like, let's say the class sizes, we need to be at, 18
15,
kids or,
18.
yeah.
20.
It's basically if another adult is in the room, then you've basically met your class size. So it's less about space.
If you can, I don't think the parents count, if you have another teacher in the room.
Yeah.
But who the
Yeah.
hell's got money for another teacher? Some of the schools, the PTA pays for another teacher in the room,
Hmm.
but that's not every school. I know Anderson does that.
And
But-
Nest did that.
That's, yeah, because they have to,
Yeah.
that's a different community.
Yeah.
But I'm saying normally there's only one teacher.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids, so I don't know, I should know the phase in for the, small size, it's not immediate, but it was-
Right, yeah, I know it's in
Phase
phases,
in,
yeah, yeah.
It's
I think-
like
The next
28,
3 years,
right,
yeah.
It's a phase in, but there are some schools that are gonna have to figure out, I don't know what they're gonna do, they have to, something.
Yeah, we have some
They may
schools that
get
have,
rid of 3Ks, which I think that, that's.
Oh,
another
yeah,
thing.
no,
I don't
Kansas
want that
3K.
either, but I'm just saying what
Yeah.
they'll do.
right. So do you have any thoughts then on, I know there's been some talk about changing the certification for teachers to attract more people into the system, because apparently a lot of the master's degree work is administrative rather than the specialty of whatever the area content is.
I haven't heard any discussion, that would come from, as you probably know, from the border regions, that's what would have to come, Betty Rosa. I would be for it, because, but I know, I have not heard any discussion about that, I'm sure there would be.
There's already emergency certification.
Right, you can get started and then do your certification, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. But that doesn't always get, I mean, years ago, there was a guy named Tony Alvarado, he was the superintendent. Chancellor, Superintendent District 4, he was my kind of guy, right, and he would say, the hell with all of this certification. I'm just gonna find a math teacher, I'm gonna find a science teacher, the hell with it. Well, that didn't last too long. He got in a lot of trouble, but he was the best, he turned District 4 around, he was District 2 Chancellor, superintendent for a while. Went to San Diego.
So I guess the question really is, have you heard of any efforts to incentivize more people to get into the pipeline?
Well, I have not, to be honest with you, I think the biggest issue is the salary. It's not a competitive salary. And so you don't see, schools of education, being flocked to in terms of applicants, as well as I do. It's the salary, very low. Even if you, work too many, months and summer and so on and so forth, I think the salary is too low. So that hasn't changed.
What's the starting salary? I think it's like 65, right?
It goes up, yeah, I think so.
65
And the
for,
principal is 217, so then but not everybody's a principal,
Right.
and the AP is probably a little bit less. But the starting salary is low, and it doesn't move quickly. So I would say salary, to be honest with you, is a big problem. I don't know how it's gonna change.
Right.
I mean, it's like, how much focus do we have on education in this country, in New York? Yeah, I mean, our schools are hurting. They're hurting since the pandemic, big time, basically. Some of them, not all, some of them are.
Is there anything, on the table right now at city council in terms of education that you feel that could use support?
Yeah, I think paraprofessionals,
The paraprofessionals.
because don't, and that's mostly for kids with special needs, but they need to have some, they need support, yes. And I can send you more information about that.
Okay, that would be helpful.
I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see how the, the school size thing pans out in District Two, but who needs to have more space and who doesn't, that would be more local. But I'll let you know if there's something else I mean, everything is gonna be on the budget, that's where the focus is gonna be.
Yeah.
Is, if we have to, backfill some of the federal money, how's that what's gonna happen there, and also what's gonna happen with the state. You know, so much of the city dollars are actually coming from the state of Women Beds. You know, so New York City puts in money, but the state puts in a lot, even more.
So we just recently,
Budget issue. I can let you also know when the, Jesse probably knows, when the education committee is taking place.
yeah,
In the budget, and that's gonna be, March is from the beginning to the end, it's all budget hearings.
okay.
And the other thing is, a lot of these schools, not everybody has after school,
Yeah.
that's another issue.
Yeah.
It's
Elementary
really-
schools, we still don't have them. I mean, you have to pay for it,
But that's,
so.
that shouldn't be.
Yeah,
my
right,
opinion.
right.
And then a lot of kids who can't, they get scholarships, but not everybody
Right,
gets a scholarship.
yeah,
They
exactly.
feel very rejected.
So we're also very concerned about the migrant students, and we just did a letter on this,
Good.
just affirming that should be a welcoming space for everyone, and ICE should not be allowed into schools. So is there any other support, anything else that we can do?
It's like being in a la la land, because I read I was coming up right now in City and State tonight. I don't even know quite what to tell you, because, it's, to the credit of the chancellor of DOE, she seems to be saying, outside, stay outside, don't let them in, call the general counsel, blah, 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 right? But then the mayor today just grabbed all of his commissioners and said, do whatever, he didn't say that. He wants nobody to criticize Trump.
Right.
And he's got his own agenda, which I understand. It might have something to do with him, which I'm not gonna comment on. But he also is thinking, we won't have raise, we won't lose our federal 10% if we keep our mouth shut. I know that's how he thinks. So, but that also means, I don't want people to, I don't think he cares about the asylum seekers as much as we do. I don't think he does. So it's a really strange time right now. Cause like I got a call this morning that one of the developments, housing development, there was some migrants in the line for food and supposedly ICE grabbed them. We don't even know for what. But you don't know who to tell because the administration doesn't really care. So who am I supposed to tell? I called the press, but I mean, it's a strange time.
I had heard that somebody got stopped by the NYPD about their legal status. And, you're supposed to say, I need a signed warrant, and I need not administrative order, I need to see a signed warrant. But when you're being yelled at by
Yeah.
somebody in uniform,
Yeah.
it is really hard to
They
like
want to sign
keep
warrant.
asserting your rights and saying,
Yeah.
I don't need to speak to you, I don't need to show you my passport, it's frightening. I mean, so. I don't know, but I was really upset to hear that the NYPD is getting involved,
that's
this
what-
is an ICE thing.
We were told originally that was not gonna happen, but you can see now, but
Yeah,
it was a very hard time. And also, I don't even tell you, but a lot of families are not going to school.
Right.
Yeah, because they don't want to be separated.
yeah.
CUNY students are not going to school either. It's a fun time, so I don't know if that answers any of your questions, but, that's kind of what I know, I think that the funding issues are as important as the teachers right
Yes.
now, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
That seems to me what people are most concerned about.
well, I think one kind of a long-term thing is that the chancellor used to be a publicly elected role, but I think it was Bloomberg that basically made it a
It's appointed now.
appointed now.
Well, it was always, before Bloomberg, it was a city, board, right? It was a city board, and then he went to Albany, you're right, and got mayoral control.
Yeah, but and Adams did the same thing.
We
And
just
so-
continued it.
Yeah, so I just think that it would, I would like that power back to the people or in some
Well, I
sort
don't
of
know
more
what's the-
democratic
I don't
capacity.
know
Within
what
the
the
people.
board, the board was also controlled by the
But-
mayor.
Right, yeah, that was
Okay.
another problem.
Okay, well.
Yeah, it wasn't
Yeah.
a Democrat, and there was a lot of corruption, I have to tell you during the years, I was around. There was a lot of corruption, I think it's good to have the mayor be in charge, but, it, you know, it's kind of a funny mayor right now, I don't know. It's the most bizarre time, my poor
It
interns,
doesn't,
right, my poor interns. What's going on? I can't even describe to these high school students, like, what is going on? They're like, la la.
Well, there's a lot of mixed messages coming out.
Yeah.
And it's like,
It's
one
so
day
mixed.
you're told one thing, then the next day
I know.
completely changes. So we really appreciate your
It's
perspective on this and
very hard to tell.
education of sort of where things are. But yeah, it's constantly
Very hard
changing and
to
there's a
tell.
lot of unknowns, especially at the federal level and what's gonna be happening with DOE.
Right,
And at the state level too, with the foundation aid formula and how that's gonna be amended. And what that
Exactly.
means for New York City, less funding potentially, so there's a lot on the table. So I think if there's opportunities for our committee to weigh in on, you know, if there's budget hearings, we'll
Yes.
follow that. The paraprofessionals is a good flag for
yes,
us.
yes, I'd love to have.
And so we can, you know, make sure folks get the calendar and the schedule, certainly in your own capacity, you could do that, as well. And yeah, it's just, there's a lot going on and it's hard to keep up, so we appreciate you really.
I'll leave in my notes, just, so that's all.
Yeah, that would be
Oh, thank you.
great. But is there a way to interact with our supers to say, you know, because IEP or paras don't follow them to high school. It's really just a eight and below function. So since we do have relationships with our supers, maybe this is one of the things to say, like, in terms of being able to quantify for our community, like, what is the shortage of IEP paras
Mm,
in our district,
mhm.
you know, or in CEC too, or is that what?
Yeah, we
I'm sorry,
have that conversation,
District two.
we talk about, yeah, with Superintendent Kelly.
Yeah, yeah,
About budget priorities and where those needs are. It's often we focus on like the capital stuff in our schools, right? Because we have a more sort of direct, so it's more of like a tangible thing that we can advocate for, but certainly when it comes to like expense funding and things that can help with.
Yeah, I think the more we can
Yeah.
do for special education,
Yeah.
that's, you
Yeah.
know, those kids need a lot of.
We could bring that
But
up
we could
certainly
bring
the
that
next
up,
time.
because we do
Usually the
have this
focus has always been, 3K, pre-K and after-school funding, but
That's
that, yeah. Right, so we could certainly raise that.
yeah, in the latest budget from Adams, it did sound like he was gonna cut the 3K.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Was that?
He cut the-
Oh, he
Right,
did
right,
cut,
he did by half, I mean, it was huge,
But
but we
then-
put that in our budget letter that we want.
yeah.
Because we have a lot of, 3K centers in our district, so
But
that's
then
very popular.
I
here.
hear, you know,
The city council will
Levine
put it back. The city
saying,
council.
oh, okay, they'll put it back, okay.
They're so pissed. They're so mad. This-
With all the research that we know
Oh,
about the
please.
importance of pre-K and 3K and, you know, I mean, now we're hearing about 2K.
The speaker of the city council is livid.
Yeah.
Livid.
Well, I think this, the excuse is that, some areas, the seats aren't being filled, but I think there's just a lack of marketing, for a better word, getting out there in different languages and really
Right.
talking about the benefits of why this is so important, to have a child reading on time by the third grade. If that doesn't happen, then it's a lot.
There was zero marketing this.
Right.
Mm.
But I think there's also I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Joanna, but the program, they can shut down like tomorrow too.
Right.
Right, you know, like you send your kid to an elementary school that's got a foundation, it's not, you
That's
know,
true.
it's not going to, there have been these experiences where people put their kids in
That's
and,
true.
and all of a sudden, guess what? You know,
I've
you think you have
noticed,
a
yes.
guaranteed childcare for a really good place, and then it shuts down because it doesn't have the staff and money or loses its location, it's all valid, but then you're stuck in that situation as a parent, and so that is something that gets around, and then there are people are like, well, I don't know, you know.
Yeah, no, but the 3K will come back, but they had no publicity, correct? And second, everybody said, okay, then switch the seats around. There's nobody over here, but I can tell you the waiting list over here is
Yes,
very long.
yes,
Could
exactly.
you like figure that out? Because it's
Right.
not too complicated, right?
Yeah.
It was just frustrating, to be honest with you. But there are a lot of education issues. I'll make sure you have what I'm hearing in terms of the council.
Yeah.
And then, you can pick which ones you want.
And I know you had done such a great job, and I know, including at my son's high school years ago, but at making sure that there were social workers and
Yes.
mental health stuff on the site.
Yep.
And I just wondered, what is your sense of how that is going in our district? Like, do most
I don't
schools-
know your district, I know citywide, there is a law, they're supposed to have, social worker, they're supposed to have a nurse, et cetera. There have been tons of, reimbursement issues, right? Because, in some cases with the social worker, if kids will have, Medicaid cards, it can be reimbursed, the services. But if they don't, they should not be penalized and not get the services. So I can't tell you that they're in every single school, they're supposed to be. But we work hard on it, it's like one of those things that comes and goes depending on, which principals want it. Sometimes they make a decision that that's not my priority, and so they don't fund it, the social worker. But, they're there, the law is there, doesn't mean it's being followed, I can let you know what I've heard about the social worker, from any of the stuff, I'm glad to.
So this is something then it falls on the school, because I know they have the bridging the gap social workers, but I think is that just for students in temporary housing?
Yeah,
So
it's only for temporary housing.
I see, all right, so school.
That is mandated, that is.
Yes,
mandated.
yes,
That
yes,
is
because we do have them in, well, actually, I think we're only down to one, and we have 200 or 600 actually asylum seeking students in our schools, but we're down to like one. But for just a regular social worker for any school, the principal would actually have to go out and find somebody.
Well, and they can, yeah, I mean, they can find somebody that actually turns out that the school social worker is paid well compared to other professions and a nonprofit. So they actually like, to be in the school, so it's not hard to recruit from all my friends who are in social work. Problem is, they have to have the budget and make sure that their galaxy, is what they're gonna prioritize.
Right.
Just because there's supposed to be a nurse in every school, there's not a nurse in every school, same issue, same discussion about who's gonna pay for it. Now, some cases, the hospitals have programs in, the school-based healthcare.
Right,
And then the social workers are there, the nurses are there, and so on, and the hospitals are paying for it by reimbursement.
yeah.
So every school is different, it's a little bit too much of a hodgepodge, that's what it is. I
Yeah,
don't know
we
what
just,
it is, MSC, I don't know what they.
we just lost.
There's a
it.
nurse, I know that, I know the social worker.
I don't know the social worker. The
Yeah,
guidance
the
counselor
Jewish,
is not a social worker, the guidance counselor is not a social worker. But sometimes they get confused, but they're not a social worker.
there's schools where the Jewish board has been providing social workers, but
Yes,
it's been inconsistent and sometimes they've left for various budget reasons and they've come and gone, so to get that consistency is important.
Same with Ryan Health, we've had them for 20 years in the school,
Yeah.
and then they're gone now.
Right.
Just left.
partly because the reimbursement isn't as much as they would like, that's the thing, it's the in the high schools, I went to when I was more president, every single high school looking for school-based healthcare like this. And it turns out that so many of the services they provide are not reimbursable.
Right.
So the hospitals don't wanna do it because they don't get reimbursement.
David, we see your hand up, so you're.
Yes, thank you. Gail, thank you for coming. I really
Hi, David.
appreciate. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Just a
I
quick
see.
question. I hope this is not aren't the schools required to have guidance counselors and social workers? I remember, isn't it by law? So you're saying, will the guidance counselor take on part of the responsibility of a social worker?
Guidance counselors are definitely, they are mandated, they have to be there. However, my understanding is they focus on, getting the kids to the next grade, they focus on things that are, not really, they're not social workers, they're not trained as social workers, and if you get them mixed up and you're a social worker, you can have your head cut off. It's a completely different profession. So they do with the academics of that child, but they do, but they don't deal with the social emotional. They might informally, but they're not trained. And all I can tell you is in the high schools, there are so many problems, oh my God. And so the social workers are needed, I think, particularly because I hate to say it, but if I have to look at one more smoke shop, even with the smoke shops gone, everybody's smoking in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Elementary schools are in the bathroom, middle schools are in the bathroom. I mean, I've got kids, you know, they always come, Gale, what are you, I don't know. But obviously, that would be the social workers, not the guidance counselor.
Is the law about social workers, does it require them just in high schools or in?
They're supposed to be everywhere. They're supposed to.
In elementary
They're
schools too?
supposed to. I'm gonna check on to see what the real deal is. I'll let you know.
Great, I think we again
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
I hope
Yeah,
it's helpful.
It always
Good
is.
discussion for me to hear what your concerns are too.
Yeah, we certainly have a lot and we're gonna be following this closely and.
The buses, we don't get some on the buses.
Oh, gosh, yeah, the
You
bus
have to
is-
tear it up. It's another
Next meeting.
pipeline situation that
Yeah,
the buses, that just, this, I don't know the answer to this.
Yeah, so many, we had hearings on buses, we had
Yeah.
investigations on buses. We get better, September is really bad, October is a little bit better. But you know, it's just, particularly to watch the special ed kids, they get there halfway through the day,
yeah,
it's terrible,
Yeah.
I just can't stand it, I cannot stand it. They don't have enough bus drivers, then you can't make this stuff up. And then de Blasio he started something called the Nice Bus Company, I never heard of it, I thought, oh, okay, this is a good idea. Now we'll have a bus company that works, I thought. They have the same damn problems as the other bus company. So I don't know, there's somebody, I think the guy who runs this bus company says he could do a better job. But you know, just, for me, just trying to figure out how to get him to be in charge, be like, you might as well climb Mount Everest.
right, yeah.
Because, you know, he seems to be, at least know what to do. I think there's quite a bit of other stuff going on too with the bus company.
Yeah, I'm just curious, well,
Oh,
have you here, the washer and dryers, like, can you talk a little bit about how you got them into being one school? I mean, was it facilities who paid for it? How did this
That was
happen?
wild. Well, what happened, some woman called up and she's from Princeton, New Jersey. She's got 14 washer dryers, so I want them, but you know, what do I know? 14 washer dryers, yeah, that sounds good. So I called my friend who runs a moving company, this is a true story. And he sent out to Princeton, New Jersey, and he picked up all these washer dryers. And we called all the schools, who wanted them, who didn't. And we had them all delivered to the schools, that was a whole drama. Then I got about, so far, then the next problem, so the washers are fine. Those damn gas dryers are a problem, right? So then I called up PC Richards, we can't make this up. I got 6 electric dryers, but not 14. So now I got hooked up 6 of everything, 6 schools are all set, but I'm still stuck. So Kenny, who's in the DOE office, I don't know his last name, he and I are at it to, you know, come on, either you give me
Yeah,
the rest of my electric dryers, because I can only get 6 from PC Richards. Or figure out how to hook up the gas ones. That's where we are. But then we got 6,
okay,
and it's better than none. We try to focus on the schools that have the largest number of kids in
Right.
temporary.
right. And do you know how it works, like, do the families, are they welcome to come in and do their own?
Families are
laundry?
welcome to come in and do their own
Okay.
thing. Yes.
Right.
Before it was the poor teachers taking the clothes home.
Right.
Every school needs them. I hate to say every school needs
Yes.
them, needs to watch it.
Cause there are accidents, you know, I mean,
Yes, exactly.
yeah.
And also, you know, teachers shouldn't be stuck doing it.
No,
Anyway, so yes, I don't get it, it's the slowest process, but
oh, yeah,
my friend at the moving company, he got a story about it in the newspaper, so I think that was good enough, right? And he never had a story about it in the newspaper before. Good deed,
okay, yes.
but he also never been to New Jersey driving, so I don't know. It's a real legitimate drive, you know, moving company, but it's very local. You know, the whole thing was a riot. But anyway, yes, that's something to check to see if all your schools have them, and if not, you know, who knows?
Yeah, we've been down that road.
Yeah, we certainly have, I'm sure.
Well, a worthwhile effort, and it's great you made progress on it,
Yes.
even getting it, one machine is.
That's huge, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yes.
Yeah, where you can get one, you can get more. Other questions for Gail while we have her?
You guys don't go below 14th Street, right? How far?
No, we 14.
Because you know, this year they would, Trinity, it has a commitment, as you know, below 14th Street, $500 million. And so, when I was for president, there was a school that needed washer dryers. I called Trinity, you know, they were in that afternoon. Because below 14th Street don't do anything. But you don't have anything below 14th Street, so you don't have Trinity. They have a real commitment to below 14th Street.
Yeah. And a very nice endowment, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And they're
giving
spending
me
it to their credit.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think the next item is, okay, so I guess we're the review of the DOE and School Construction Authority responses, is that?
Yeah, I'm gonna give a suggestion on
No, no,
that.
yeah.
This year, and I don't know what is going on. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm very disappointed in the response. We usually get our register, which is what you have in their Dropbox. They clearly have got a new system. They always update their system a little bit. This one is particularly not that, on the registry, it's not that different, but then when they usually also send an Excel spreadsheet, which is very helpful for us, because we can categorize it and move it around and everything. You want to send that down? They don't have the same level of responses that have on the registry, so it just is not a user-friendly document. I hope to have it in the user-friendly format as soon as I can. But, so I just want to say that if you want to wait a month, I don't necessarily know if it makes a difference. We can you can certainly look at the registry, it's the same, that is the most, I think, helpful information. But I looked at the responses and they're really all very bleak. And I didn't see anything from DOE that, it seems like across the board they just said no. Which, okay, but they usually give a little bit of like context to it, a little bit of information. And I think at this point, I would like to suggest, if we're all comfortable, like, we haven't actually had DOE here to talk about budget.
No, we
I can't even remember when, because trying to get anybody from DOE to show up here, I think we get them on very specific programs. We got them on the art program, we got them on the busing. I can't remember the other time we had them. We certainly can get our superintendent, but I think we need DOE, because they're the ones that actually give us these responses, and they're extremely helpful. And so I would like to, if you're all willing to, I mean, I'm not trying to say we shouldn't talk about it tonight. If people have something to say, if they've read the document, but it doesn't necessarily.
I mean, are there any questions, if people had a chance to look at the document between now and then we can revisit this next month, and we can also work on getting someone from DOE hopefully here to sort of give us a little more context.
And also an update on this new school we're supposedly getting in the 5-year capital plan that keeps being pushed back. I do want to check with both land use about how much building is going up, because we have a lot of units coming in, especially in Hell's Kitchen. And are we going to be able to meet the capacity?
Yeah, no, I mean, yes, I think we should definitely talk about that. I think it'll be, I can foresee it already being a very frustrating conversation for all parties. But we should certainly have it, and I would like to really push hard on getting someone from DOE to talk about budget and actually respond to our things. Because I think after this, the most recent go around, this is very disappointing. So if you're willing to put up with that, then I'll put it up for a month.
Yeah.
That's a great
Yeah,
suggestion.
I would hope that we have a much more fruitful conversation.
Okay, that sound good?
Great.
Any new or old business that people want to bring to the committee of opinion? Oh, Jesse.
Just because it's related to schools and it's going on right now, again, it's something that I was pulled in on, because we actually, I'm trying to remember actually how we did it. I went to a site visit that involved the DOE person that was dealing with the trash, and there, the changeover that the schools have to do because of the new laws around trash. She's like the head environmental person that's dealing with that from the DOE side. She attended a Beacon school for that issue learned about this new issue that Beacon High School is having, which is a school on 44th Street. Yeah, fumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gale knows the school very well. They moved from the Upper West Side down to our neighborhood. They've got this fume issue.
Taxis.
Well, yes, from the taxis, exactly. I think it's it is certainly from the taxi stand right next door to it. But in my personal opinion, I also think they shouldn't have built the school with the vent right above the taxi stand, but that's if I could rebuild the school. But anyway, yeah. And, so I just wanted to give you all a heads up. I'm involved in this. Eric Botcher's office is involved in it. They're taking it very seriously. They had DOE Environmental go out and do testing all over the holidays and before the holidays. We had a very unfortunately lackluster follow-up meeting today about it, where DOE didn't really bring the right people. And so therefore we couldn't really do the analysis, but a report has been created. And unfortunately Beacon just got a new it's got a new principal, so I don't even think they're aware, right, I'm not sure she's even aware of the issue. So we didn't also have the right people at Beacon to talk about it. So anyway, I just wanna let you know there is progress on it. If you do hear about it, our office is involved. And Eric's office is very involved. And so we do wanna make sure that this is solved, because this is again, this is one of these issues where it's a relatively brand new, beautiful high school, and there's certain times when entire classrooms can't be used because kids are getting headaches. It's like, so, it's like, it's like, so like talking about when we're talking about like classroom and sizes and space, we're now having to say, oh, at certain times of the year, these classrooms aren't gonna be able to be used because of fumes is a ridiculous concept. So, and Brad's office is involved as well, and Linda's office is involved because they actually are now creating legislation based on this thing. So there's a lot of moving wheels, which is great. But I just wanted to give you a heads up that we're involved on that as well.
So it sounds like.
Oh yeah, sorry, Quinta was on the meeting today.
Yes, well, to the extent anyone was on the meeting, but yes, you and I were there, we tried. I do have to run, I'm actually sorry.
No problem.
But I did want to just say like, thank you again for,
Thank
you.
So it sounds like, Jesse, you're saying that there isn't sort of a supportive letter on a particular effort that we can write quite yet.
I mean, I wouldn't want my report to be the starting block of that. I think if we're not hearing. My concern is that report, if the analysis comes back, the DOE analysis comes back and says, well, it didn't peak, it didn't reach some levels that warrants our concern to the level that, we should redo the HVAC system, let's just say, or that particular intake valve, intake thing needs to be relocated, which is a capital project, whatever. I would say then I think that warrants it, because my concern is that's what's gonna happen. My concern is DOE is gonna come back and says, we've done our analysis and yeah, it's a little this, a little that, but nothing that warrants us to like change anything significant. And on the ground, teachers, union teachers, by the way, who are like saying, as a union rep, I don't wanna be, I shouldn't be put myself through this, but kids should not be getting headaches going to school. And so there's that disconnect, and we raised that disconnect today because we said, because the guy who was there from DOE, he wasn't the right person, so I feel bad for him, he got dragged in the last second. He's like literally looking through the report as he's talking to us and saying, it doesn't look like anything significant. I don't think he understood the context of him saying that statement in the room that he was in, the virtual room that he was in. And so we said, why don't we just stop? Eric was smart, and he's like, let's stop, and we're gonna just read and convene, because there's no point in getting us all bent out of shape if we don't have the right people in the room. The teachers from Beacon weren't there, the new principal wasn't there. So we just stopped and we're gonna reschedule it. So, but I think it's some. What?
Is there a solution? Because this has been going on since they moved in, we've actually been across the street.
So it's interesting, I hadn't heard of this, Gale, until literally last year.
Oh, I knew about it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't, it's not surprising, it's next to this taxi stand that's been there forever. I will say, it's also like, when you built the school, it's like, you're next to a taxi stand, but.
Move the taxi stand across
Not
the
a taxi
street?
stand.
I know, when I say stand, I'm sorry, it's a garage, it's a full blown garage, which has been there.
Oh, like a parking
for-
garage.
Probably a lot of-
like, it's a switch out, like, you, like the show Taxi.
Oh.
That's what it is, so it's like taxis go in, taxis go out, they fix them, they paint them, they do everything there, they've been doing everything there way before the school was built, it's been there.
There
I
are
mean,
no electric taxis in there.
yeah, there's that, yeah. So, yeah, it's not a simple thing of just moving the thing, I mean, one teacher did write that, so why can't DOE just buy them out?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Like filters, like HEPA filters?
so they're talking about the filters and everything, I just think today was unfortunately just not the day to have all the right people in the room, but they did bring that up, and so, again, though, at the end of the day, if that's just not sufficient, I mean, I don't. If Gail's saying she's heard about this for years, I mean, literally, yeah, so, yeah.
Are there any like federal or state laws dealing with health wise? Because this can have permanent damage for the children and the teachers, but especially the children. So are there any like, because I don't know, any EPA or DEP regulations that the Board of Elections,
Well,
I mean, the Board of Education will be forced to comply with? I mean,
There are, I don't know them off the top of my head, there are, but it all comes from, it's all gonna come from data that's gotta be pulled, so. There's nothing right now supposedly on the books, because the school wouldn't be there if it was, that says you can't put a school right next to a full-blown taxi garage, so, that's where the state legislation is coming in to look at that. But
I meant the consequences of what's happening. Obviously, of the children, if it reads at a certain level of carbon dioxide or whatever chemical is giving these children and teachers headaches. If we brought that, would give it would put a spark up the Board of Education if other agencies came in, especially if they're violating health laws.
DEP is involved, so they're at these meetings, so I'll going back to Katie's point. Let's hope to have this meeting reconvened.
Nice.
There's a report, we're gonna get a copy of that report, we'll take a look at it, and I think if we're at a standstill where the agencies are saying something and it's just not matching up, and the action items are not matching to what the necessity for the kids' safety and health and teachers' health and safety, then I think we do a letter. I think at that point we should.
Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for listening. So
No, thank you for your.
There's a lot
No
of
problem. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Okay, motion to adjourn,
All right, this was very helpful, thank you.
all right.